Good afternoon. So, welcome to my podcast. Today's topic is about the fact that you need to explore and learn until you make it. Now, I got this idea because earlier in the day, I know someone told me that when things get tough, the best way is to fake it until you make it. And I listened to that and I said, you know what? This is the worst advice someone can ever tell you. So let's see if we can discuss about that topic today. So let's see if we have the sound for our today. We have the sound, so that's wonderful. So this topic is the idea that when you are trying new things and you have a goal, you know where you want to go, or you have a mental idea, and then you're not quite sure how to get there. The best thing is to actually take action. Okay, so we take action. So what do we do from there? Now, if you try something new and you have a growth mindset, then you know that you don't know everything. There's lots to learn, but while you take action, you are on the path to get where you want to go. So often people will say, well, if you're trying something new, fake it until you make it. And when I think about that saying, I think it's the worst thing ever. My second option for that saying was, well, do it until you make it. And then again, if someone says, well, I'm going to do something until I achieve my goal, it doesn't mean that you will get there, because you have to realize that there's a lot of steps you need to achieve, a lot of steps you need to learn about and learn from to be able to get there. So that led me to this saying that I introduced my podcast, and which is, when you want to try something new, you want to achieve a goal, I would say explore and learn until you make it. So the idea for that is that you have a growth mindset, you know where you want to go, you're taking the steps, but as you take the steps towards where you want to go, you're exploring, you're having fun, you're exercising your curiosity to achieve your goals, but then you are open to learning new skills to get to your end goal. And too often we forget about that. In life, things are never 100% easy. That is true that we do a lot of things that we know about and then we get better. But to know something doesn't mean that you are good at it. So once you decide, for example, I have this podcast, which is my one of my projects I started last year. And I was planning doing all kind of activities trying to get to a point where I will have a good podcast. And at some point I say, you know what? The best way is to start. And then from there, I will see what I need to do. I will explore this new medium. I will learn what I need to learn. And my hope is that as I progress, this podcast will get better and better. And that's what I'm working on. If you're new to my channel, my name is Alain Faber, and I've been teaching in high school and middle school for the last 25 years. And I'm sharing my ideas, my thoughts about teaching, about learning, about leadership. And that's why you're here today. And welcome to this show. So the show is divided in three parts. The first part is about learning and about learners. Second is always about teaching and teachers. And the third segment is about leading and leadership. So let's see if we can look at the topic tonight with the learner's perspective in mind. So when someone wants to learn something new, either as a trainee, as a student, or any humans, you know that knowing about a topic, having the knowledge to do something, no, having the knowledge about a topic is the first step, or at least it's part of the first step. But you have to realize that someone could spend years to learn about a topic, but it's still just a theoretical idea. At some point, the learner needs to decide, what will I do with that knowledge? Can I put this knowledge into a way so that I can do something, take action, create something? Because knowledge and taking action, when you put the two together, that's when you bring transformation. Personal transformation, but also the transformation of people around you, and even make the world a better place. So I often use my science class as a way to give great examples. So for example, we're learning about physical changes in science right now, and chemical changes. And by the way, if you go on my channel, I've been putting some videos about that topic. So they are happy to learn about the topic. But on top of that, it's important for them to see a couple videos that outlines the idea. And what happened is last week and tomorrow, we're going to do a few labs. No, we've been doing a few labs and a new one tomorrow so that they can apply what they've learned, but also see with their own eyes what we've been talking about. Because knowing is great, but just knowing is not enough. You need to take the knowledge and you need to be able to apply it and be able to explore, use your curiosity, notice that there's still things to learn so that you can transform your learning. And that is something that I always talk about. Now, in science, people will say, well, you have the pure sciences like physics and biology and chemistry and geology for some. And what happens is that we are focusing on the pure sciences. And then you have another group that will say, well, as engineers, you want to be able to apply the science and solve problems. And then you have people in the tech sector who would say, you know what, we just want to do the thing. We don't need all the theory. We've been doing a few things for years. We're inventing new stuff. And that's how to go about it. And you know what? It takes, as a learner, different perspective to better understand the topic. If you take the teacher's perspective as a second segment, the teacher's perspective is the idea that you go to teacher's college and you learn about teaching. As a trainer, you learn your slides, the course you need to give, so you have a good understanding on the topic. But it doesn't mean that you know the best way to teach and make sure that your trainees and your learners learn best. The best way to do that is to actually go out there and do it. Now, people will say, well, as a teacher or trainer, just fake it until you make it. Well, trainees, and students do know people when that's what they do. So instead of faking it until you do it or until you make it, the best way is explore and learn until you make it through your actions. And that is quite amazing. Because teaching is not easy. The more you teach, the better you get. The more you teach, the more people you meet, and the more you meet different people with different learning, how can I say that? Learning what no, about different ways they learn best. There you go. And often the best way to know about how to include those in your lessons is to actually go through them. It's the same thing. YouTube is full of training videos, and a lot of people are learning from YouTube. But sometimes people are saying, well, let's see if I can learn a little bit more before I start. Let's learn a little bit more before I start. And what happens is people can take weeks, months, years of learning and thinking and planning and still haven't made the different parts. So this is part of an ongoing question we have ourselves, and we can get better. Now, if you think of leadership as a third segment, as a leader, in some ways, people say, well, people are getting promoted to go from one level to another in the company. And when you get into a leadership position as part of a project manager, you are leading a group of people. You are the head of a community group, or you are tutoring someone or babysitting. The whole idea here is that you are having a leadership role. And people say, well, I'm not sure how to approach something. And some people say, well, you know what, fake it until you make it. But I still believe that's not the best way. If you get to a new position, a position of leadership, the best way is to know that it's not easy, and leadership is an ongoing journey. So the best way to do it is to approach leadership situation and say, okay, I'm going to explore and learn through my action so that I can make it. And what happens is people will notice that you're working hard, you're trying to learn new things, and guess what? They will appreciate what you're doing. And it becomes a teamwork. Because if you have leaders doing leaderships with teachers, teaching and trainers and trainees, and you have learners, all together, we end up with a community with the growth mindset. And you end up with a community not faking it until they make it. You end up with a community taking action, knowing that through curiosity they can explore, they know they can learn, and at the same time, they will be able to create something amazing. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for ways to enjoy life and find the sparks that makes everything we do interesting. And that's the topic for tonight. I hope that you will approach the next challenge or the next opportunities with the following, not thinking that you can fake it until you make it, but knowing that you take the first steps and then you will explore and learn until you make it. And I believe in you. Be great, do amazing things. And if you want to share your amazing contribution in your team, put it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, that'll be a great thing to do because we have a podcast weekly and we have several videos coming out several times a week. On this, have an amazing day, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.